Welcome to a special edition of Night Shift. Jeff Sharon here along with you, along with the student of the game, Kyle Nash. What is up, Kyle? It's been a minute here.
Listen, I know it's not football season. You know, the guys have been holding it down, doing the thing on the diamond and stuff here, but I didn't want to just sit on my hands. I had some stuff to do, Jeff. What can I say?
Well, it's never an off-season for us, even though we're coming up on the off-season. Well, track and field, College World Series. Well, the College World Series ends. That's when we're like officially in the off-season now. So, but football doesn't rest. Here we are at T-minus 2 weeks until Big 12 Day. The clock strikes 12. And once that happens, we're going to be starting to talk about football. And you, Kyle Nash, as we all know, have an affinity for the big fellas.
I do.
And you've been hard at work getting some FaceTime with a couple of UCF guys, former UCF guys who are known for their exploits up front and are making their way post UCF, both playing and coaching. So without further ado, well, I mean, we're not going to dive into it right away, but on the show today, Samuel Jackson, who is now working with the Jacksonville Jaguars, trying to earn himself a roster spot there. And an old friend of ours, one of our favorite players who we've ever had here at UCF, I think, and certainly on Black and Gold Banneret and Night Shift, Jordan Johnson, who is no longer playing but is now coaching and is coaching for one of UCF's opponents in our new conference this year, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. He's going to provide us some really interesting perspective on that. But before we get to JJ, we got to talk about Sam Jack. So Kyle, give us the lowdown on Sam, because, you know, again, one of the anchors of UCF's offensive line, he was one of those guys that, like, you know, there are some guys who like come and go, right? But there are, you know, on the O-line, there are some guys who, like, you know, you're familiar with them. They start 40-plus games in their career, 40, 45-plus games, and they are just the linchpins. And Sam has been that the last few years. He's staying in the Sunshine State, fingers crossed. Got an invite to camp with Jacksonville, along with his UCF teammate, Devod Wilson.
Yes.
Who you saw, but unfortunately we didn't get a chance to talk to him. But either way, but Sam has always been, you know, one of the faces out front. And you got the chance to talk to him at his new digs.
Yeah, no, and it was great. I tell this story not to throw any shade on Sam. Quite the opposite, actually. I was there at the first day of minicamp that started earlier in this week, the 16th, earlier in the week that this is recorded. And Sam actually, you know, I had arranged it with the front office, you know, shouts to Dave Wolf, taking care of me there. They had arranged it before I had gotten to camp and all that. I made the drive, all that. And after the camp was over, I'm there setting up, and, you know, Sam walks off. I'm figuring out he'll be right back out. And I'm setting up, and they're like, did Sam come and see you yet? And no, he said, oh, well, let me go get him. Sam was so all business that he was talking to his guys coming off the field, working things out, trying to find his craft, trying to do the thing, trying to pick up anything he can. He talks about it a bit here in this piece that we're about to play, just trying to pick it all up. Now, you know, I took a minute to run over, get some stuff from Josh Allen, and then lo and behold, here's Sam, and, you know, we have the conversation. And I'll say this, both for him and Devod Wilson, both him and Newt did not look out of place in camp. Now, granted, there weren't pads yet, you know, not every single solitary starter was there, all that other stuff. They're in there with the other rookies, but they did not look out of place. They blended in very nicely. And I'll say this, there were some of the higher draft picks that did not necessarily look like they were standouts. These guys were lower draft picks, or actually, sorry, they're UDFAs, right? They weren't drafted, and they all fit in pretty nicely. So there's that uplift too. Of course, at the end of the day, the true decision will be made, you know, closer to July there. We'll see if they make it through camp. And yeah, it was a good experience. And, you know, Sam had a lot of stuff to say about his first experience in the NFL and what's been there. And also some stuff that's happened UCF wise around the country in general comes up as well. So,
all right, let's hear Kyle's interview with the one and only Sam Jackson right here on the Night Shift podcast.
All right, no longer a college man here at OTAs with Jacksonville. Sam Jackson, take care of business, man. First of all, great to see you.
Great to see you.
You looked like you were ready to go, and there's no surprise there. But you mentioned there was some stuff that you were ready for, that you expected, some stuff that you didn't. Give me a little leech. What's something that you came out here and you're like, I can do this. I've seen this.
Oh, I mean, honestly, there's a lot more football once you get into the league, right? So like a lot more technique stuff. So I mean, that's what I was expecting. I was expecting to learn a bunch more just about the craft and everything. And before coming out here, they always talk about like, it's a business and all that stuff. And, you might feel like it's gonna be a little distant and cold, but honestly, ever since I've been here, it's pretty much like family. I mean, it's just like almost like how UCF was, like just how the culture is, how the coaches are, how the training staff, the strength staff, all that. They're all in about trying to make you a better football player and making this organization better, which is, I mean, it's really awesome to see because they always talk about the business side of the NFL. I mean, it's still a business, but it's nice to have like a family atmosphere.
Who you been taking pointers from so far?
Everyone in that room, every single person in that room. I mean, I can't talk enough about all the veterans. I got lucky with I got some 9-year vets in Tyler Shadley and Sheriff, and then just some younger vets that have been around the league, and it's just really cool to just see a bunch of different perspectives, and all those guys are all about making us the best player we can be, and just to make that room a better room. So I try to take everything I can from anyone.
And it's interesting, you and Newt were both brought in as kind of positions of focus here, and because of that, it looks like going to have a good opportunity on a team that's on the way up. Right. I know you'd have played anywhere, but seeing the Jags come out being kind of the favorites in the AFC South with all the early scuttlebutt, does that add any shine or what?
Oh, absolutely. It's just one of those things where I kind of look back at my freshman year at UCF. Coming in and having the year that we had, like it has that same feel here. Like I already said, the culture and the family atmosphere here pays dividends, especially when you have a really long season like the NFL is. My teammates, my old teammates, will be done with their season, and I still have 7-8 games left. So you need to have that sort of fun atmosphere to be able to be a good team throughout it. And honestly, that's just how it feels right now. And I look forward to just being around these guys, and I can't say enough about how lucky I am to be here.
And you did the hula bowl early. I know we talked a bit there too. Did doing that All-Star game kind of help lift you into this process?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure it did. Nothing can hurt as long as it's good film, right? So, just talking to the different teams and meeting with different teams, getting meetings and stuff. It did a lot in a sense of like kind of just preparing my mindset about what the NFL would be, and I'm sure. I hope the hula bowl helped out. I'm sure it did, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you mentioned a little bit about coaching and things like that. I can't come here having just talked to JJ last week. Right. I'm gonna tell you, he looks good, but it's weird seeing him in orange with Oklahoma State and all that. And then you got Kinsey backing him. He's wearing orange too. What do you think about these guys getting their coaching opportunities?
I mean, I'm happy for it. It's kind of crazy when you see guys who were like leaders for when I first came in, and now they're doing different stuff, coaching at Tennessee, coaching at Oklahoma State, and I just hope, they get everything they deserve, which, this is exactly what they deserve. They deserve that opportunity to be coaches at premier schools and coaching the best of the best.
Well, and there's nothing about them that's a fit being in the coaching space at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let me ask you this too. Something that everybody talks about the speed of the game, and you mentioned there being more technique and this at another level. Is that leap, like, how quickly do you pick up that leap? What does it kind of take that in? Like, listen, I know you can't hand me the playbook, I get that, but you've had the opportunity to play under several coaches. Did those times at UCF where you went through some coaching changes kind of prepare you to jump into this and like, here's a new book I can learn?
I mean, I'd like to say, like, definitely just having different coaching styles, it helps out a lot. But I mean, college ain't got nothing when it comes to the play calls that the NFL has. I mean, luckily I just play offensive line. Like if I was a receiver having to learn the routes, or even the QB having to know literally everything that's happening, like that's tough. And college doesn't really hold a candle to it, but it definitely helped just having all those different coaches coming in different styles of play. It definitely helped prepare, and you try to take it in stride. When it comes to the speed of the game, it's right now I feel like it's kind of like half because we don't have pads on, but it's just like how you go from high school to college, and now it's college to NFL, so it's a whole different level.
So talking to Sam, it's funny. Talking to him now as an NFL player, there's very little difference. which is, always refreshing to hear somebody being authentic. Had that he
wasn't in college all that long ago. Let's be fair.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll put it this way. I've seen the hair get let down when they're not students anymore, and there's not, somebody looking over their shoulder, so to speak, but I said to him, and he got a kick out of this, I haven't seen a smile that big on a UCF player post their career in person since 2018 when I went to camp and saw Michael Kalubi-Ali and Taj McGowan. So, and he really enjoyed, the Kalubi-Ali shout back. He had a good relationship with all the Hogs back then. So, from one six-year player to another, I thought he would appreciate the shout that they were both, you could tell they were very happy to be there in Jacksonville in their NFL efforts there.
Let me ask you the big question that I think everyone's probably thinking right now. What do you think the odds are that Sam makes the team?
It's funny. They're actually dealing before. Listen, we had this conversation briefly and where I thought they would go in the draft and how that would work. And I wasn't super confident. And listen, he's going to play professionally somewhere because in the spring leagues, the trenches are at a premium. Finding quality linemen is an issue, and those that have them win leagues and make the difference. We certainly saw that in the XFL, Jeff. But I think in the case of the O-line, you got Cam Robinson, who's already going to be facing some suspension, and you have some injuries that have taken place here in the offseason that these guys are dealing with up front. That only increases the likelihood of Sam at least getting time on the roster and making the active 53. So, right now, I like his chances way better than I do. He's got good size. He's a utility man that can play all over. He's got a chance to make the 53. I would say a 50-50 at this point with what's going on.
All right. Well, I know you'll be keeping an eye on this because you do a lot of work with the Jags, obviously, and it's good to hear Sam over there. And I hope that you get the chance to talk to Newt pretty soon too.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to be going to camp, so if he's still on the squad there, I might be able to get some time there. So that'd be fun.
All right. Now we're going to talk about another guy who was another fan favorite coming up next as we transit. Yeah, speaking of fun dudes to talk to, Jordan Johnson, who of course was. Was part of that group going back all the way back to Scott Frost 3 head coaches ago, really, and was just was just an amazing personality at UCF. He was one of my favorite interviews at UCF. I did a really good piece with him called "Let's Not Talk Football" with Jordan Johnson. If you have the chance to see it on Black and Gold Banneret. You can view it there. And JJ was cool at the time, and he still is because he was playing center in major college football while also a practicing vegan.
Oh yeah,
which was so wild, when you think about it.
Yeah, you mentioned your time talking to him in 2018. I wasn't with the Banneret yet, but in 2018, I got plenty of dieting tips from the dude. I wish I had remembered them all because, I didn't need to diet back then. But now that I do, he'd have some stuff for me.
Well, he's not a dietitian anymore, though.
Right.
Well, at least maybe he will be at some point. But for now, he's an offensive assistant for the Oklahoma State Cowboys under Mike Gundy, and which presents an obviously pretty interesting situation considering that UCF and Oklahoma State are going to play each other this year.
Hey, listen, that's not this time last year. We was announcing being a graduate assistant with Cincinnati because It can only get weirder. Right?
What is it with JJ coaching for teams that we play against in conference?
He's obviously a spy, Jeff. That's
yeah. Quite, I think that's fairly obvious. He is a plant, and we need to. And I don't just mean it in the vegan sense.
I see what you did there. Hey, would you suspect him of foul play? I wouldn't.
I'd be in favor of it. No, JJ would never do such a thing.
No, he wouldn't.
Yeah, I know he would, but he is enjoying coaching at Oklahoma State. I've made my feelings known about Mike Gundy over the years, but tell me about talking to JJ and what he was able and what he said about working at Cincy, working at Oklahoma State, and as he goes up the coaching ladder.
I've had a chance to develop a personal relationship with JJ, and maybe it's an offensive line thing. Listen, this is how I got the painting behind me was doing the same thing with Aaron Evans. I get it. But the whole thing is I was just we were texting each other, and I realized I hadn't talked to him a while, and it hit me, Jeff, that this dude has a very unique point of view and perspective that we can all learn something from, as somebody who's played in the air quotes G5 for an ascending team, for a team that has a banner for a national championship, that was in the middle of a growth process. He is one of those. He's an essential member of one of the two big teams that a lot of people can argue in the modern era, the 13 and 17, that are big cornerstones to the ascension to the Power 5 with the Big 12. And now he's actually coached a summer with the Big 12, or spring rather, with the Big 12, and can actually see also from a kind of a firsthand standpoint what differs a roster that he's coaching now from one he played for, and where the gaps that UCF needs to concentrate on. Not to mention, there are other UCF folk that have become graduate assistants lately that are also wearing orange, right? Of course, I cite Mackenzie Milton. He had an interesting perspective to add to that. Also had some very interesting stuff to share about their conversations when that happened. And listen, JJ isn't a fun guy to talk to anyway. The smiley Coach J, as he calls himself, Coach J, he was trying to aspire to be a motivational speaker, and then this whole coaching thing kind of happened for him as well. Well,
it is part of the job description.
Exactly. It part and parcel. I'm with you. But yeah, he had a lot of stuff to say surrounding it. And I joked with Sam Jack, I referenced earlier, you probably heard it. The two guys there's no way that KZ nor JJ fit as coachers. I mean, come on, what are you thinking? He had a lot.
Here they are.
Yeah, and here we are. Yeah, right. No, I mean, obviously that's the joke. Both were super motivational and smart dudes, and the insight JJ brings. Listen, I know I learned something. I hope you guys do too.
All right, let's listen to Kyle's discussion with old 72, Jordan Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not often I get an opportunity to bring a treat like this, but this jovial young man has given me the opportunity once again to talk with him outside of his career at UCF. I know you know him best as the center at UCF through 2018, part of the 2017 team, and all of that greatness in his career. And he was also a coach at Cincinnati after that, and now working in Oklahoma State in the Big 12, even though UCF's come along from behind to join those ranks. Give it up to my man, Jordan Johnson. What's going on, my guy?
What's going on, everybody? As always, the great introduction. I appreciate you, boss.
Hey, listen, you earn every bit of it, but I'll put it this way. I had to come to you because I know you'll have very unique insight with a lot of the questions that are out there. And while I can bloviate and all of that, I like to go to the professionals to make sure that what I'm thinking is on track. But before people get the wrong idea, seeing you wearing orange and all that, you're still plenty tied to Orlando. You're still doing your good charitable. I saw you flash the camera. And listen, you're not even 40, and you're wearing an Oklahoma State shirt. I get it. Don't let Coach see that I made that comment. He's not going to like that. But you're still got ties here in Orlando with the One Kid Week work that you do here locally. I know you're more associated with the toy drive and all that, but tell us a little bit and walk us through. And you got an old friend you're still working with that. Tell us a little bit about your charitable work here that you're still doing in Orlando.
So me and my best friend from college, Anthony Roberson, and we co-founded One Kid Orlando, sophomore year of college, back when we were just some young kids trying to give some youth in Orlando a Christmas, and that turned into what it blew up into it now, which we just had our 5th annual Christmas toy drive, and it was awesome. And then in the summertime, we had our 1st annual One Kid Week, which was just a week of charitable events. We had a trash pickup day. We had a trail walk with all of the volunteers. We had a juiced up field day to commemorate our good friend Otis. We had a Boys to Men question panel where teenage boys could, as adults, like, what is it like to be a man and things like that, talking about masculinity and toxic masculinity and how to treat women and things like that. So it was a great week filled with great things. So we're looking forward to this week being more to love, more to share.
Hey, I appreciate all that. I mean, especially like you and Ant being, doing the male role model thing there too at the Kids Week too, because a lot of people, especially we biggins, that play football, that like, oh, it's just violence. No. I've heard it said that somebody who shows strength isn't necessarily dangerous, right? And I think showing the difference and explaining, hey, yeah, we play football, but we're more than violence, especially a center such as yourself, a samurai who has to be intelligent as well. I like that example being out there. So that's all stuff that happened during one Kid Week, and you're doing the second one here coming up pretty soon, right?
Yes, sir. So it's going to be happening the week of July 17th through July 21st. And that'll be happening right in the backyard of Orlando. We're doing it. We're still getting all the dates and everything situated of what events we're going to have those days. But it's happening. It's in the works. We had another Zoom call, one kid meeting today. So things are moving and shaking.
See, when you start having those calls, that's what makes it real. It's kind of like, you seeing you wearing the Oklahoma State gear. That's what makes it real from our perspective.
We actually flirted with the idea in the meeting. I probably shouldn't be discussing our behind the scenes stuff, but we flirted with the idea of possibly trying to raise funds given my platform as a coach. Just like I've coached at small schools like the NAIA level. I've coached at Division II. Now I'm at a Power 5 school, and I've coached at another school that is currently Power 5. It wasn't Power 5 when I was there, but it is now in Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. And just tapping into the different fan bases, seeing any money that we can bring in to benefit the kids of Orlando.
Well, sir, I can tell you this. I don't think you'll be in any position to have to apologize for your intent to do charitable works with your platform. I think you'll be quite all right, Mr. Jordan Johnson. Let me tell you that. And listen, let me pick your brain a little bit, because you're there as a graduate assistant coaching the offensive line. There's a lot. You're uniquely qualified now, at least in my opinion. You're more qualified than me, certainly, having not only played in the, and I'm going to air quote this, J5, and now having coached with a Power 5 group as two of your former programs, right? You're coaching at Cincinnati and you playing at UCF are about to ascend into the Big 12. Same conference with your current team. When you're there presiding over spring practice with your guys in the trenches there, off the top of your head, what are some of the differences you see in the players you're coaching versus the ones you played with at UCF?
A lot of similarities. I've always said that the biggest difference between the Group of 5 and Power 5 is just the depth. I mean, don't get me wrong. We had a lot of ballers on our team in our first team, and we even had a lot of guys on our second team. But generally speaking, in the Power 5 world, the backups are just as good or are competing for that number one spot. Mm-hmm. While at the Group of 5 level, more oftentimes than not, the second string guy is the second string guy for a reason.
Yeah, there's a wider gap in talent, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, and that seems to be the scuttlebutt. But again, hearing it from the horse's mouth is helpful. We were talking about the differences there. What are some similarities that jump off the page? Like when you stepped on the field wearing orange for the first time, and you're at practice, what struck you like, this ain't no different than when I was playing? What was that? What was the first thing that hit you that fell into that category?
Probably just being able to relate to the players, because I was just in their shoes a couple of years ago. I tell myself all the time, man, I'm getting old, but in reality, I'm still a young buck. So, and I can relate to them about a lot of things. I mean, we scroll on the same social media, so I seen the same funny videos that they saw. So it's hilarious being able to just relate about different things going on in the world, pop culture, whatnot. And I think that I provide a different perspective than most older coaches.
Well, I mean, yeah, you aren't that old. First of all, I don't see an ounce of gray in your beard, so there's
no, not yet.
So I want to hear about. There's a reason Kyle shaves. I'm just saying. No, but yeah, and no, it's interesting to hear that. And I mean, it's not like you're super ancient. Like you're about 5 years since graduation, so you're still, in that place, dude. By the way, dude, be playing 3 or 4 basketball games in a night, been trying to tell people he's old. That don't work, JJ.
Hooping, all right.
Mess around and getting triple doubles, man. Listen, you know who's old? The guy that sang that song. Okay, shouts to Cube, no doubt.
Yes, sir.
You know, and let me take you here too, because it's through that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, as I like to call it, right? It's through that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon that you're still in place with, obviously you're at Oklahoma State. Dylan Gabriel's at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see, I'm going to reach for this one, but you hear it out. You're the first of the group in that class to wear orange. Mackenzie Milton has only lately decided to copy you and wear orange by going to Tennessee and following your former coach and Josh Heupel there. Mm-hmm. Like it's funny how all that works. Like I know it was weird when I saw you at UCF in the bounce house before the game wearing the Cincinnati colors. Like, can you think about how weird it's going to be when on the other side you got Dylan Gabriel wearing those Oklahoma colors? Is that going to be weird or what?
Very much so. The last time I saw he was wearing black and gold. So. But as always, Dylan's my guy, and he has my support. Even when it's going against me, he got my support personally. But just know I'm going for the Pokes that day.
Oh well, I have no doubt. That's not a question. You did that quite well with our conversation about how it was going to be when Cincinnati faced UCF when you were first there as a coach. No, I hear all of that. By the way, I will be saying hi to you at that game too when it happens.
Perfect. Can't wait.
That's the thing too.
November 11th. Mark your calendars.
Oh, look at this. He's got it. He's got it set. I may have already marked it too. You don't know. I didn't have a chance to say it yet. But let me take it through this. When you see what Oklahoma's putting together so far, what's something that jumps off the page, football wise, that impresses you the most with what you've seen? Obviously you were a part of a very solid program with Coach Fickell. What is it that the program under Coach Mike Gundy is impressive to you right now? What is the biggest thing you feel like you're learning? Because after all, like as a graduate assistant, that's the goal, to learn the craft. Like what are some of the kind of lessons you're picking up here that are new?
I think the biggest thing is just the culture around here. They call it cowboy culture, and we call it cowboy culture now, and it's great. Just the way that Gundy runs a tight ship. And I would even say that he's on like CEO status now. He's not even coach no more. He's like CEO Gundy. He runs things around here, and the guys know it, and everybody respects him. And it's not just because he's the head man, but because the influence that he has and the culture that he instills in everyone. It starts at the top, man. He does a great job.
But don't you feel like that's kind of a thing that's happening basically at all programs, right? Because I've even heard whispers that the same thing's happening here at UCF. Gus Malzahn is giving up play calling duties. He's doing more of the business stuff. Do you think NIL and the relation of recruiting and I say relation because it's not just a business of finding guys, like you got to build a relationship, something that, where it's not only about how much they'll get paid, you're trying to kind of transcend that as best you can as well. With that part of it, do you feel like, CEO, you mentioned CEO Gundy, obviously, because, presiding with the Cowboys, coaching in that group, that's obviously your frame of reference there. But don't you feel like in any program, any major program now, that's kind of the case, that the head coach is a CEO?
Yeah, for sure. And what I really mean by that is that he does a good job of getting in experienced and very good football coaches that can run things and can work without being micromanaged and told to do certain things. That they've been doing it long enough. They know what works and they can apply those things. So I think he's done a really good job of staffing. He's done a really good job of surrounding himself with good football coaches.
Well, and see, let me take it more now to your current frame of reference, like with college life and or college athlete life and the NIL and all the, how you say, climate such that it is now. Do you feel like assistant coaches' value, their worth, has increased now because that's kind of the way things are set up?
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's going in the right direction. Things are looking up for sure. I'm excited for what the future holds in college football.
So, and listen, we mentioned one of your former guys in Dylan Gabriel. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up, of course, Mackenzie Milton getting the job out at Tennessee. I'm sure you were elated to hear that. The bright smile, of course, that you're known to deliver confirms that. If he were listening to this, what advice would you give him? If you haven't already talked to him, maybe you have. I don't know. I'm making assumptions here. But what advice would you give him as he starts his coaching? I mean, I shouldn't say start because he was a coach, of course, for a bit, when he was recovering from the injury and he was sitting behind Dylan Gabriel and all that. But like, what advice would you give KZ as he presides over the official capacity of being a coach?
I've already reached out to him, and it was all having to do with all the off the field stuff because he's a football player, and that's half the battle. Like, I'm out there showing guys what I was just doing a couple of years ago. And I'm like, work for me. I promise you, if you do it just like I did it, it'll work for you, right? And he can do the same. Now, the off the field stuff where it comes to making cut-ups on Excel's Catapult, or if you use DV Sports, all these other softwares, and working with Microsoft Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and making different slideshows. And there's a software called Visio where you do a lot of drawing of plays and diagrams and creating stuff for the scout team and stuff like that. So I just hit him up like as soon as he got the job, like, yo, if you ever need something, I got you. Hit me up. I'm here for you. If you got any questions, if it's something that you don't really want to ask somebody and above you, it's like they looking at you like, why you don't know this? Like, call me. Let me know I got you.
Well, and you would wonder, though, like going in a place where, having a former athletic director may not be a big impact, or maybe it is, you can tell me, but like there's a certain element of comfort I think that he might be enjoying that you didn't, since he's going to a coach that he's played for before. What kind of advantage do you feel like he would gain from that?
No, for sure. Just relationships are everything. So given that they already have a relationship, not from recruiting, but from being in the same quarterback room for a couple of years, So I think that it's going to be a seamless transition for him if it hasn't already been. I'm sure he's got right in where he fits in.
Well, and also he has you for moral support and IT support as well. Listen, I happen to know Visio because I graduated, with a management information systems degree, or information technology, as you kids would know it now.
Okay.
But but Visio and such that it is, that's not necessarily something that you're like, okay, hey, listen, great work on the football field, do this. No, I could see how there would need to be some adjustment, and I would expect some tech support calls for Visio. So look out for that, brother. But I got to ask you a fun question, and it's a thing that's been a big deal on many shows that I've been on. And I'm just going to go out the gate. There's no subtle way to ask this. So I'm just going to ask, is Coach Gundy's mullet amazing in person as it is on TV, or is it next level when you actually see it in person?
I feel like TV and social media and all these other networks and whatnot do it no justice. It's amazing.
Do you believe it should be considered a national monument?
It really should. Just a lush field of wheat. He gotta go. I'm just joking. It's your stuff. Do what you will with it. I'm joking.
But let me do this with you too, brother. A little bit of a thought exercise. Like, I know you've come onto the field to coach against your former team before, but in my mind, and I have a big ego. You may not to my extent, so maybe I'm the problem here. Willing to admit it. But I would feel I don't know what kind of way, but a certain kind of way when I took the field and I'm coaching against the team that's now in the Power 5, and I helped make that happen. Like, how now that July 1st is mere weeks away from making that thing official, how do you feel to be such an essential piece of UCF history? Like, whether it's you, I mean, I've asked Terrence Plummer this question, who played with the Orlando Guardians, and he was part of that team that beat Baylor. What is it like when you look on the other side and you're like, I helped build that?
It's awesome, man. Just because that was one of the things that they sold me on in recruiting. I remember Coach Beck was like, he's coming to my high school. Like, look, we're going to be in the Big 12 in a couple of years. This the spot to be. Like, come on. Come get on the train. We got this new guy coming in from Oregon. We're running this fast-paced offense. Man, it's about to be this the place to be, I'm telling you. And I just trusted it, believed in it. And he didn't tell a lie. Looking back, I feel like I made the right choice for sure.
Oh, sure. And you help make it truth. I mean, that's the part that's kind of amazing. I can't help but think that too. Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that guy from Oregon and such, that UC Fast and stuff that Coach Frost brought in there too. Like a bit of a theory I've sort of developed, and I actually asked Coach Malzahn about this, and he kind of agrees. You're a guy that's, protected and blocked for mobile dudes, whether it's KZ, right? Whether it's Mackenzie Milton, whether it's DJ Mack, Dylan Gabriel, though he was criticized. He wasn't exactly terrible at moving in his own right, and then you see John Rice Plumlee come in here at UCF. Is it, and I want to put this not just to UCF, but football in general. Do you kind of feel like mobile quarterbacks are kind of a requirement in the game nowadays? I guess I'm tapping into your coach's hat here. But do you feel like mobile quarterbacks are the future of not just the NFL or college football, but football in general?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having a mobile quarterback just allows you to do so much. People have to defend more things now, rather than you just being a pocket passer standing back there. And it helps with elusiveness. Like, I know we only gave up 13 sacks in the 2017 undefeated season, but it wasn't just because we were the best blockers ever. Mackenzie didn't want to be tackled, so he's back there making moves so nobody brings him down. So, yeah, we get credit for not giving up a lot of sacks, but he didn't want to get sacked, and he was making it hard for people to sack him. So it just helps having a guy who can move.
I'll say this too. You might recognize this name that kind of agrees with the extra guy concept. When I asked him about it in Arizona, there in Phoenix, Michael Vick said the very same thing. So you're in good company on that one, my guy. I just want to throw that out there too, because like this whole mobile quarterback thing is something I spotted a while back, and to hear another coach answer in the same way as other guys who have played the position at the high level, and hearing all that consensus, I'll admit a lot of that was for me and for validation, but I enjoyed hearing your answer, Jordan. Don't get it twisted.
You're like, I'm do a confirmation question. Confirm exactly that I'm saying is right.
I mean, listen, I'm just a talking head here, man. I might have an Aaron Evans original behind me of me playing, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert. I get it.
That's hilarious.
So let me ask you this too, and then obviously, like just as an example, one of your former teammates, Cole Schneider's playing in the USFL. We got the XFL coming out there too. You're an up and coming coach, and the spring football leagues are prevalent, proliferating in the country in a way that hasn't existed since what? I don't know that it has really. How many leagues have been together at the one time? I'm sure some historian will be like, in the 80s, or whatever. But spring football is more prevalent than ever. As a guy who's trying to make his way into coaching, does this provide more avenues for you? Like, what is the benefit or that of advent of that existing? Is that something that's on your radar, or is it just something that's in the background, and if they call you won't say no? Like, what's kind of your perspective as a coach to see that as a new opportunity?
I think it's awesome. More football, the better. I think it's great for the guys who aren't in my position. For example, for me, like, during COVID, a lot of things was happening, canceled a lot of pro days and a lot of rookie mini camps and whatnot. But guys who just don't have, for lack of a better term, what it takes to go to the NFL, or there's only 32 teams and they have about 53 players on each roster. So I ain't the best at math, but that's not a lot of people. So, and there's a lot of guys out there that still have a lot of drive to play the game. So I think that this is great. This is an opportunity for those guys to go out and do what they love. And for the fan entertainment.
Yeah, no, you're right there. And with my own two eyes, I've seen a lot of these player 54s out there that are pretty darn good, man. But yeah, if you're curious of one, Jordan Thomas, who actually played with a former teammate of yours, Jordan Akins, right, in Houston, took it from the Orlando Guardians, and I believe he's with the Broncos. So, I mean, that's just an example of a guy that made it to the next level, bouncing back through, just haven't slipped through the cracks like you said. I mean, that's interesting. But you talk about the players and the guys, like from a coaching standpoint, and that's the part I think that gets missed a little bit, right? It was a coach of color that had the best record, who was going into the championship game. Sure, they got upset, but that's not the point. Coach Barlow was amazing with what he did with that team. It was a lot of guys who were young coaches getting their shot. I'm sure this is an avenue that could potentially work for you if the chips fall that way, right?
Yeah, for sure. I always like to keep my options open for sure. As y'all can see, I don't have a problem with moving. I've moved more times in the last couple of years than I have in my whole life. So, I mean, who knows what the future holds?
Well, I'll say this. The last time I interviewed, I mentioned Jordan Thomas. I interviewed him and then he got called up, right? So I'm talking to you here. I'll put in a good with Coach Buckley here in Orlando with the Guardians. See what I'm kidding. Man, Jordan, it's great to talk to you, man.
Good network. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, listen, you said it's about relationships, right?
That's what it's all about. It's what this life is about. The most important thing in this life is relationships.
So, and I guess the big thing I'll ask you, your job such that it is, and again, like you said, when you were where you were, it was still G5. Is there a big difference in your job when you're coaching between and I'm going to air quote it because they're not anymore, a G5 school and a Power 5 school?
From my perspective, no. It's the same thing. Maybe from the athlete's perspective, or if they've been somewhere that was G5 and now they've transferred to Power 5 or vice versa, it may be for them. For me, I'm just coaching football. I'm out there having fun, doing the sport I love.
I mean, I got to tell you, I know you, so I'm not going to act like I'm surprised by that answer, but I'm still glad to hear it, man. So with that in mind, Jordan, tell the people where you can be found and any of the other stuff you want to talk about here before we wrap up.
Well, my personal social media platforms are Third Johnson Boy. A lot of people don't really know where that stems from. I have two older brothers. They're first and second Johnson Boy, makes me the third Johnson Boy. My coaching Twitter is Coach Johnson 72. And I want to try to do a little bit more with the whole motivational speaking thing. So if you want to follow me on those platforms, Motivate with Coach J is the name of my Instagram. And obviously you can follow our One Kid Orlando on Twitter. The Twitter handle is One Kid United. So at One Kid United.
And I'll say this, I'm going to be trying to hit Jacksonville OTAs here on Monday. Is it the second or first Johnson Boy that I'm going to run into with the Bill Walsh Fellowship there?
You're going to run into the first Johnson Boy, the original. You can go talk to Caleb Johnson. He's working with the Jacksonville Jags this year.
See, I might see, and me being my smart Alex self, I might walk up and, excuse me, I have a message from the third Johnson Boy. He says, I hope you do well in camp.
Yes, sir. Do that.
Okay. We got it locked in. All right. That'll be a thing. If I could get to him, I'll talk to the communications people, see if I can't make that happen, buddy.
All right. Let's make it happen.
Jordan Johnson, thank you for your time here, man. And I appreciate you. We'll see you next time, brother.
All right. See you later, boss.
Man, that dude, he's something else, man. I really miss him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I miss him too. I mean, I know I text him and stuff, but it's not the same as talking to him and being met by that grin in person. And listen, I hope I get to talk with him pregame on November. He knew the date. You heard it in the interview. He has the date already.
Oh, of course he knows the date, man. He's got that thing circled, man.
But just like he did the Cincy UCF game. Listen, he looks oddly good in orange. It's weird for me too, but at the end of the day, I know. Listen, he doesn't have a mullet. Settle down, you'll be fine. But he was on the field before the Cincy game. Going over and talk to him in his reverse colored Chick-fil-A uniform was its own kind of awkward, but still great. I'm sure it'd be no different when he's wearing a cowboy polo, like I did for my 40th birthday, because my buddy wanted to make me know that I was a man because I was 40. It's okay, Yeah,
but I listen. I'm always going to be happy for JJ. He's one of those guys who we will always root for, no matter where he is, because dudes like that, they don't. Yes, they do come around, but not all that often. And and the path that he's carved for himself, is one that I think that a lot of UCF people, and especially the people he played with and was coached by are particularly proud of.
And as he mentioned, I mean, the whole reason I led the interview with his work here in Orlando was so that, fans are like, why are you interviewing a Cowboy coach? No, he's still an Orlando boy.
Well, by the way, do we have that short of memory in our fan base? Like, what?
I mean, listen, I'm just trying to say, there are people who claim certain focus on other old teams, even though there's still people who want to worry about that.
Are you telling me that there are people like we could talk to KZ and they're like, why are you talking to that Vol guy?
There's some, but that's the bad example. I'm not. I can't think of if we talk to one of the guys that transferred, like KZ was, there was a while there. Well, you don't want to be talking to that. No, there's guys that do that, Jeff.
Oh my gosh! Listen,
I'm not saying they're smart. I'm saying it happens.
Listen, here's the thing. I've said this before on social media, and I think you agree with me. And I think this is a good note for us to end on here too. Is the longer I've been in covering sports, right? It's less about. It's kind of like it's come full circle. Remember the Seinfeld episode, not the Seinfeld episode, but the joke that Jerry Seinfeld told, where he was like, basically, we're rooting for laundry, right? Because when players come and go, it's like essentially we're just rooting for the uniform that they wear now, right? Well, the more I've been around sports, the more you realize you do root for the people.
Yeah.
You root for the people to succeed, wherever that may be. You hope it's under your roof, but if it's somewhere else, that's okay too. It's like you care about them, you want them to do well. So in a way, you are still rooting for the people, even if they may or may not be wearing different lingerie than you. So I've always found the older I get, the more I root for the people. And in the case of Sam, in the case of JJ, in the case of KZ, everybody, no matter where they are, I'm always rooting for them because, we know where their roots are and they know where their roots are.
Yes. That transcends football. Diamond battles, I still feel the same way about.
Yeah. Yeah. So best of luck to Sam. Hope we see him make the 53. Best of luck to JJ. I hope he continues to succeed. I hope his offensive line at Oklahoma State does wonders in 11 out of their 12 games this season. So just saying,
no wrong with that.
Yeah. I hope that, if and when UCF beats Oklahoma State, it's not because of Oklahoma State's offensive line faltering. That's what I'm saying here. So root for the people.
And really, it's more because you want Gundy to lose than I'm kidding.
Great place to leave it. Kyle, where can people find you?
Honor, joy, and privilege, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. Check me out on Twitter at the SOTG, on Facebook as the Student of the Game, and on Instagram as the SOTG. And listen, a lot of fun. It's the Night Shift podcast before I say the wrong thing. There you go.
Yeah. All right, make sure you follow us. I'm at Jeff_Sharon on Twitter. You can follow us at Black and Gold Banneret, the home of the UCF Knights on SB Nation, where you can find not only this podcast, but clips of Kyle's interviews with both Sam and JJ, as well as our Instagram channel, Black and Gold Banneret. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret as well.
YouTube, Jeff.
I can't forget the YouTube. I knew there was one I was missing. YouTube.com. Just search for Black and Gold Banneret. Thanks again to everyone for listening. Hope you really enjoyed this one. It was as much fun as it was for me to hear it and for Kyle to do it as it was for you to listen to it. On behalf of all of us at Black and Gold Banneret and the NightShift podcast, for Kyle, I'm Jeff. Enjoy the week. We'll be back later next week with a recap of what's going on as we approach the off season and the Banny Awards coming up. Until then, enjoy.